Hi and welcome back to Cheeky Crypto. Today guys, we're going to be diving into the world of VeChain and specifically the price action of VET. As we get into this video, if you find it useful and informative, then do hit the like button. I really do appreciate that. If you are new to the channel, then do subscribe, tap the bell, select all notifications, and in doing so, you will be kept up to date with absolutely everything that we do here. Right, with this said, done, and out of the way, let's dive into this technical analysis and take a look at what's going on here with VeChain. So we're going to start things with this weekly chart, guys, like we usually do. There are, of course, 5 impulse waves to the upside, good motion, and we can see that things really started back in March 2020, peaking out in April, peaking out here with wave 1 in August. This was basically all-time high scenario for VeChain. We're setting fantastic highs up this end. We then started to see a correction come down in wave 2. This is an area that we kind of see bottomed out in November. We then pushed up for wave 3. Fantastic heights were being achieved here back in April of 2021. So basically 399 days, 18,295%. So despite the usual comment that you see that nothing happens, it doesn't do anything, it's a shit coin, it just trades sideways, 18,295% in 1 year. That's significantly higher than many in the space. So I appreciate that. I think VeChain's done incredibly well, and it definitely has been performing well for me. Obviously, lots of people were potentially buying at wave 3 and have had to endure the fourth wave correction. This fourth wave correction was a fantastic opportunity to dollar cost average a better position during the accumulation period at the bottom here. This is an area that we wicked into several times, and we weren't in it for too long, so you had to buy it up pretty quick. From here, though, we have now started the fifth wave, which takes us back to some interesting kind of price discovery. Now, obviously, we've got a bit of work for VeChain here to kind of get this across the line. We have come across some interesting resistance points. Right now, you can see here on the weekly, right, we can see that if I actually quickly just mark that up, because I think it's quite an obvious one that we should be aware of. If I pop that here, for example, what you can see with this orange line I've just put in, if I actually make this a little bit bigger, we'll zoom in here. So what we end up with here is basically the resistance line of where we've been hitting here, okay, coming up to the last couple of weeks, is also the previous area of support over here and a resistance over here. So overall, we have to be mindful that ultimately there are going to be areas of resistance and support found in several key areas on the charts, and this is where we are fighting. This is where we saw a rejection, again rejected not just because VeChain came across this area, but also because of Bitcoin pulling the entire market down with it. So again, it's important that we acknowledge what is going on there, but otherwise we are moving up to $1. That is the Fibonacci retracement tool and the extension of the 4.236. This is the high of 3 and the low of 4, indicating the fifth wave going to $1. Okay, so pretty standard stuff. Nothing should be too scary for anyone. $1 looks achievable. It's about 800% from the current position, and it would take a reasonable amount of money to do it. But again, this project has huge possibilities to kind of skyrocket. It should be a top 10 cryptocurrency in my opinion, with everything that it is doing in the real world. So overall, things are looking pretty good. They should be targeting this dollar level pretty reasonably, and about 800% in gains from our current position. Okay, so slight pullback has meant that the more gains have entered the table here, and some fear has been up for sale. So again, if you're new to VeChain, that's where we are kind of anticipating things to go next. So this weekly chart does show the structure working well for us, nothing to kind of worry about too much, and we can now dive down into our daily. This is daily, shows us some fantastic corrections that have occurred. Okay, the correction has brought us all the way down to an oversold area on our stochastic RSI. This has basically allowed us now to see some significant growth. This is an area that we were in previously when we were back down in a very similar area before we had this run, but also notably when we were all the way down here and we got to this area up here. We were overbought for several days and weeks, and ultimately what we'll look for now is a growth to the upside on this daily. But there is still a little bit of volatility to go through first. The hourly chart doesn't quite allow us to continue the growth to the upside just yet, so we have to just bear with VeChain whilst it goes through a couple more corrections on the smaller time frames, but the daily and the weekly are in very good positions to continue the growth to the upside. This could be explosive, and it could happen very fast, or we could see a nice, slow and gradual move to the upside in a similar way of what we had seen over here. Okay, overall, this is the area that we are targeting. Okay, we are looking to go into the 618, the 786 area. We ideally want to get the close candle above 21.5 cents, and that's going to be the first big signal for us. but the big one comes in at 23.1. Getting a closed candle up here at 23.1 is going to be the one that takes us to price discovery mode. Okay, so a couple of things that are going on. The first target that in order for us to kind of get to, we have to obviously get that closed candle above 23.1, which takes us to the 42 cent, 64 cent as the second target, 87 cent is the third target, and then $1.01 is, of course, the 4.236 extension. Overall, the 36 pullback that VeChain has had is an opportunity, if you saw it that way, and to basically just build a better position before we continue up towards these price discoveries. Overall, I'm not concerned over what is going on in the space. We can then confirm what is going on with the 𝗲 dashboard. We can check out VeChain, and we can say, yes, it's dropped down a rating to a B2 rating. And we can see the fear and greed index is starting to get fearful. Now, ultimately, this is an interesting thing because when you're extremely greedy, this is usually when you take profits. And when you're extremely fearful, this is where you actually buy. You buy the fear. So things here are lining up interestingly for VeChain, which is why we see some volatility on the smaller timeframes, which we're going to get into in a moment. We'd expect a pullback on the short time frame with a huge push back to the upside on the large timeframes. Okay, so there is some fear up for grabs now on VeChain. This is quite obvious, and I think there's some opportunities to buy up that fear if you're in the mood for some vet. We can see that there's no liquidity problems, an A2 rating, no indicating no problems there. We can see that we've just dropped below the 50-day average on the Sharpe ratio, so risk to reward ratios being flagged as a potential issue. And again, this is in line with that sentiment in the fear and greed index. So overall, people are very scared of what is going on with VeChain right now. Moving averages are perfectly fine at an A2 rating, and the profitability is always at A1 rating because it's done so many gains so far. So overall, despite some small time frame volatility, VeChain's looking very interesting. These, in my opinion, are the opportunities to basically buy up VeChain at discounted rates. We have to be mindful to check the advice.io dashboard every day to see how these ratings change and fluctuate. But right now, dropping down to a B2 rating, seeing that there is fear up for sale, and knowing that there's a little bit of an issue with the Sharpe ratio is always good. We can also couple this with what's going on with Bitcoin. How are those inflows and outflows on exchanges? Is there anything that's going to potentially cause VeChain to fall down further from a Bitcoin perspective? It's good to see that the inflows have come down a little bit, although they were not that high to start with. Nothing as considerably as high as what we saw back in May before we saw a significant pullback. So right now we know that the inflows are very, very small in comparison to where they have been previously. So again, there's no issues from that kind of perspective either. The other thing that's probably worth also taking a look at is where Bitcoin is from a let me just bring this up for a second, from a Gaussian channel perspective, because this is also an interesting perspective that we need to keep an eye on. For anyone who doesn't know, I've done a couple of videos on the Gaussian channel and everything that is going on here. So if we're interested to know how Bitcoin is performing bull run to bull run and what the expectations should be next, we obviously have to consider where things are sitting. Now, this is the weekly chart for the Gaussian channel on BTC to USD using Bitstamp because that's where the history sits. We can see the first bull run peaked up here in 25th of November 2013, right? We had the double peak. We had the first one coming in around April time. Sound familiar? And a second peak coming in at the end of the year, around November time. Okay, and then this whole bull run lasted 546 days. We then went down and we actually tested the Gaussian channel. We bounced from the Gaussian channel and we fell in and under the Gaussian channel in the bear market. Okay, this is the signal for the bear market just here. This peak to peak, okay, starting the bull run, there was another 714 days from the bear market, and then going and starting a bull run to the peak. The peak to peak scenario from 2013 to 2017 is 1,470 days. We can then see that once we peaked the 2017 bull run, we tested the Gaussian channel, fell into the channel and under the channel, bear market. We then were starting a nice rally nice and early here within the kind of cycle, but then because of the pandemic and things like that, we saw a stock market crash, crypto market crash, and we actually pulled down in March of 2020 down to here. This was the anomaly. This actually went basically a small bear market, another second opportunity that is unusual. This is not something that we'd normally have seen, so we had a slight delay. Here we actually then started to see a good push to the upside and the bull run started. So far, and the bull run has only been going for 413 days, smaller than the 546 or 714 day scenarios. So right now, if we take the 1,470 day scenario, the previous peak to peak scenario, then actually we've got a little bit more time before we actually get there, i.e. we should be a 518-day scenario this cycle. Now, why is all this important? This is important because the Gaussian channel is a good indicator of where we start bear markets, okay? And we take a look at what was going on with 2013 to start with. We push up, we come down, but we do not enter the channel. We have that secondary peak. We bounce from the channel, and then we fall into the channel. Okay, so we set these lower lows. You can see these lower lows constantly get set, and then we fell into the channel, and then we were in the bear market. We take a look at where we are for the 2017. We pushed up, we fell down to the channel, we bounced from the channel, we fell into the channel, bear market. Now we take a look at where we are here. We push up, we peak wave 1, so similar to 2013. We pull down, we test the channel, and we push up. Okay, we haven't fallen into the channel. Now, this is an important note because although there are wicks going into the channel, and this is just manipulation, I feel, we didn't close inside the channel, and therefore it's still valid. Okay, we haven't actually closed inside the channel, and therefore this is perfectly okay. So when we talk about VeChain and we think about what's going to affect VeChain, it's always good to know how Bitcoin is performing. What are the things that are causing Bitcoin to potentially cause any potential issues, and what kind of knock-on effect could that have for our altcoins? So for VeChain here, I will take off the Gaussian channel, so I don't need that one on here. But basically on this hourly chart, we are talking about some small volatility. Okay, so obviously the daily was looking good. The weekly was looking good, but the hourly is showing us that we are looking for a pullback. Now, for the case of VeChain, this here is my accumulation zone. This is an area that we only just barely wicked into previously, okay? If we are looking for a pullback in line with our stochastic RSI to pull us down into the oversold area, then ultimately we'll be looking at trying to hold a couple of things. One, we would like to ideally hold this area here, but if we're unable to hold 10.7 cent, then we want to be falling down towards 9.8, because if we already go lower than this area here, we lower this, I'll set a new lower low, at least lower than this one, but not lower than this one, then ultimately what we want to do is we want to accumulate some VeChain. We want to take advantage of the opportunity. This is my area for accumulation. This comes in at 10.3 cent down to the support of 9.2. So this area is the accumulation where I would be accumulating VeChain. Obviously, I'm not a financial advisor. Chris is not a financial advisor. Make sure that you do some research and maybe seek some professional financial advice. But for me, this is my buy zone. This is where I am buying, and this is where I will be accumulating more VeChain, right? So for me, that is my zone. But I want to see 10.7 hold, okay? Because if we can hold 10.7 and we get the bounce to the upside, then actually we set a higher low than this one, a higher low than this one, and that's a big bull signal going this way anyway. So that would be my preferred option. But if we do lose that support, I want to come into the accumulation zone. I want to be buying some more VET, and that's where I will be doing it. So overall, there is some volatility. We are expecting a pullback on the smaller time frames, but those are the small time frames. Overall, the daily is looking very good. It's oversold, and everything is lining up for a nice good push to the upside. Likewise with the weekly, everything is lining up for a nice swing to the upside and to get us towards that dollar level. Overall, there are no issues with the bigger structure on the weekly, the daily, and there's a little bit of volatility due to the recent market conditions on the hourly. But overall, VeChain's performed well. It is going to continue to perform well, and we are expecting 100% in juicy gains to be acquired over the last little part of this bull run. Guys, that is my brief update on VeChain. If you have found it useful and informative, hit the like button. I really do appreciate that. If you are new to the channel, then do subscribe, tap the bell, select all notifications, and in doing so, you will be kept up to date with absolutely everything that we do here. With this said, done, and out of the way, I hope you all have a fantastic day, and I'll catch you in the next one.